Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to this session on Microsoft Project. We're going to call it a mini workshop. Today, we're going to try to go as fast as we can, but I'd like you to stop me if you have questions, if I leave you behind. The reasons we're here is to make sure that you have a good understanding of the software, and hopefully this will help you with your lab assignments. So the idea of software integration in project management is because in reality, if we look at what's happening in businesses and organizations, every single company that I know is using some form of project planning software application. And although there are new software applications out there that are more geared towards what we call agile practices, Microsoft Project remains one of the most popular software. And nowadays, you can customize the software for agile application. And for this reason, it is being used across industry sectors. So because of that, we think if you have a good understanding of Microsoft Project, you'll be able to use it in any other software. And because it's a pioneer in project management software application, most other software applications are based on the Microsoft Project user interface. So if you take a look at Project, you take a look at Primavera Risk Analysis, you take a look at Jira and others, you'll see some similarities between the user interface in Microsoft Project and all these other software. So first of all, I'd like you to know that programming in computer applications is based on some assumptions. And we want to make sure you understand what the programmers have in mind when they're programming and why they think the way they do, right? So first, projects are important for organizations. In order for you to be competitive, you want to be able to deliver a project on time, on budget, and according to stakeholders' requirements and design specifications. And for this reason, you want to be able to take ideas to market as fast as you can. Not only you need people, train, skill people, but also you need great tools and techniques. So we are going to take a look at two key assumptions here. The first one is the fact that Microsoft Project is effort-driven. In other words, if I have work to do, if I assign people to do this work, if I need to go faster or expedite my work, if I add more people to the work, maybe I can do it faster. It's like one person can do something in a week, then two people must be able to do it in 2 days and a half. You know, that's an assumption. It's not always true, but this is one of the things the programmers were thinking when they were developing the software, right? So we will look to see what types of tasks or activities that are created in project. We'll see that there are 3 types. And we will also think about how do we get things done. In order for us to get anything done, we need resources. And that's why Microsoft Project can also be a great tool for resource management. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at I want you to be able to follow with me as we go through the instructions, this is one of the files that I shared with you. It's called Microsoft Project Instructions Workshop. So if you have that, I'll ask you to open it. That's the first step. And the second thing to do is to open Microsoft Project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait for you to open Project so you can follow with me and ask questions. Remember, if you had a chance to take a look at your lab assignments, you can ask me anything you'd like. I don't mind answering your questions. All right, so please open Project. I know for some of you, it's going to take a while. If you're trying to open it through a virtual machine, then it's going to take a while, right? So please, if you don't have Project open, it's a good time to open it now, all right? We're going to open Project. And when you open Project and you start with a new tab, right, it will look like that. That's when you start with a blank project file. Do you guys have Project open?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, Professor.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So Microsoft Project is divided into views that we call workspaces. Workspaces, places where we work, where we do things, right? Now, if you want to switch from place to place or view to view, you do that from the View tab, right? So from the View tab, you can go to a Gantt chart view, which is the default view in the software, or tracking Gantt. For every tab here, you can see you can go to more views to see all the views in Project, at least the predefined views in Project, right? So that's where you do that. You can also take a look at a resource usage view or a resource sheet view. Remember, we said resource management is important in project management because we use resources to get things done. So if you want to go to a resource sheet, for example, where you can't create a resource pool, you can actually click on resource sheet, right? And it's give you the opportunity to enter a list of your resources here, right? So that's actually very important. Now, as you can see, what you see on your screen depends on which view you are in. So I'm going to go back to the Gantt chart view. So since on the View tab, I click on Gantt chart and I go back to the default view. So the other thing to understand is that there is a backstage view in MS Project. And the backstage view is from the File menu, right? And from the File menu, you can actually see a lot of information, right? You can see, if you want, if I click options, I can actually show you a lot of things you can change here, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to do that later. But what I'd like you to know is that the backstage view is on File. You can save your file here, right? So let's click save, right? And I don't know what system you're using, but I'm going to click browse here, and it's give me the opportunity to save things on my desktop or on my in my document. So here I'm going to use my desktop. And based on information we have here, we're going to call our file a name, yeah, right? So we said we're going to call it your last name, CSP plant as project name for project file. Whenever you create a file in Microsoft Project, always, particularly for assignments, always add your last name and initial if you want. Last name and initial is important because sometimes if you're in a class of 30 students, it's important that the instructor can actually differentiate your file from other students. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go back, Alexis J, right? CSP plant, right? But I'm going to call it Alexis J's underscore CSP plant. And I'm going to give it a number in case I have others here. I'm going to call it number 2, right? Because I have a number 1, right? Alexis J underscore CSP plant 2 dot MPP. The extension MPP is the extension of a Microsoft project file, right? So that's what we're looking at here. And I'm going to save it, right? So that's my file name, right? So when you enter tasks in Microsoft Project, now keep in mind that a task can be a deliverable or an activity. It is important to know the difference between a deliverable and an activity. That differentiation is going to be important for your instructors. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to enter tasks here. But before I do that, I'd like to enter some information about my project. If you can see here, I provide tips on the instructions about how to do that, right? And let's see how we enter more information. Let's go to the backstage view, right? File, click on file, and information, right? Information here, project information. And I'm going to click on advanced properties here. Okay. From the advanced properties, as you can see, the software applications has already identified me as the author of the file, right? So I can add more information here. Subject is project management, right? And you can add project manager, company name, categories, keywords for when you're looking for your file. If you have a lot of files on the computer, you know, the keywords will help you find very quickly. And in comments, this is where you add your project objective, right? Remember, key information here is to enter clear and specific project objectives that will answer 4 key questions. What, why, how much, and how long, right? I want to know what this project is about. I want to know why the project is being initiated, and I want to know how much it's going to cost and how long it will take, right? And I give you example in the lecture on project initiation, where we talk about an e-commerce platform. Here, the purpose of, or the objective of this project is to build a power plant, right? The power plant will provide electric power for 144 homes in this particular neighborhood. The project will take about 3 years to complete, and at a cost not exceeding that much money. By providing this information, so I gave information about my project objective, about the scope, high level, too. The project team will break it down into deliverables and activities. But I also provide some constraints, because everything we do in organization or everything we do in businesses are constrained by certain factors. We need to understand what the constraints are. So, and click OK. So like we have some folks here in the chat asking questions. Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. So you enter your information here. Now let's go back out here. To start working on this, I'm going to, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy information from a spreadsheet I provided. This is a spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet with information. Normally, you don't need to enter your information in this spreadsheet and then import to project. You can actually type information here. As you can see, you can enter activity A, activity B, and activity C, right? And activity D, E, and F. You know, they're not going to be calling A, B, C, D, E, F. They're going to have, you know, descriptions here, or based on whether they are deliverables or activities. But as you can see here, you can type here. You don't have to copy and paste. If you creating your project file from scratch, so it's okay to type right in here instead of work on in Excel and then copy and paste. You know, that doesn't make sense, right? So as you can see, I have a column here called task mode. What does it tell me? It tells me whether an activity is actually automatically scheduled or manually scheduled, right? And the pin means those activities are manually scheduled. And if you want to see that, what I'm talking about, click on Task from the menu tab, right? And take a look here to see how your activities are scheduled. Now, if I want to switch to Autoschedule, the Autoschedule is a gun bar with an arrow. Let me check that here, right? If I select this, it's giving me the opportunity to switch from manually scheduled tasks to auto-scheduled tasks, right? And if I click on it, you see the change here from a pin to a proposed one-day duration, which is the default, right? So what I wanted to show you is that you can enter information right here. Project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete these activities because I don't want them, right? I'm going to delete that, just select them, click delete. That's what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm going to show you how to build a hierarchy in Microsoft Project with deliverables and activities, right? So let's take the information from the spreadsheet, right? We're going to copy everything from row 1, the concentrating solar power plant, WBS, that's what it's called, although it has more information than just the WBS, but we're going to copy that, right? All the way down from task 1 to task 60. Copy, right? And I go back to project and paste the information, right? Are you guys with me? Did everyone do that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Professor,
Mm-hmm.
Generally, when do we change the task mode?
Mm-hmm.
On which stage?
On which stage of the project? Yeah,
Yes.
you should switch to auto schedule as soon as possible, because manually scheduled tasks do not reflect everything in your project. So when project try to estimate the finish date for your project, it may ignore manually scheduled tasks. So you want everything to be on auto schedule. So once you enter information on your project, the thing to do is to switch to auto schedule, as I'm going to do right now. You see that? Wow. I switch to auto schedule. So now, if you click on File, right, and you click Options, right, you can change information here. For example, date format, you can change. You can make any changes here. As you can see, always use these values regardless of signing in Office. You can check this box if you want to, but here, let's click on Display. You can see you can change currency. If you bought your software somewhere else, and then you're working with it now in the US, you want to change, the currency from an international foreign currency to US currency, you can do that here. You can take a look at schedule, right? If you take a look at here, new task created, you see it's new task created now is feature. The feature is on manually schedule. You can change that and put it on auto schedule, right? So that when you enter information in the software, they will be automatically scheduled, right? Automatically switch to auto schedule. So you don't have to remember to do it, right? And I'm going to click OK. If I create a new task right now, let's say type A, right? It's automatically scheduled. It's automatically goes to auto schedule. I'm going to delete it. I'll just select that and delete the task. There was a right click feature here where you can insert tasks, delete tasks, etc., and change tasks from manually scheduled to auto schedule. See, if I select task, I can switch from schedule mode as I want to do that, but leave everything on auto schedule, right? So as everyone is on auto schedule, the key here is to create a hierarchy for your project. And the best way to do that is to take a look at a PMI framework for creating a work breakdown structure. It is a very good framework. It's make everything clear for stakeholders. And the way to do that is to make sure you have a project. The name of the project is the entire project, and everything should be indented under the name of the project. So I'm going to select everything under the name of the project, starting with project initiation, all the way to the last task or milestones, which is project complete, right? And we're going to deal with durations in a minute. And after selecting them, I'm going to indent here, so I can indent everything under the project. And the indent feature is under task, right? If you click on task and click indent, right? Now the project name becomes a major task, a major summary task for the entire project, right? Now this collapse button means that the project name now can be used to collapse everything from the project, right? If you click on it, everything is gone. See that? So if you can do that, then you did it properly. So the indentation must be done properly, right? So that's one step, right? But creating the indentation is important. The way the hierarchy works, if you remember, there was a lecture on foundations of project planning. We go from the project major deliverables, right? Sub-deliverables, right? And then we said, we can take work packages and bring them down into activities. Now, you may ask yourself, how many levels do I need in a hierarchy? There are no rules for that. It's entirely up to you. If a work package or if a deliverable is small, there is no need to break it down further. But if you have a big deliverable, a large deliverable, it's better to break it down into smaller, more manageable deliverables. There is a rule that they call 880 rules. It means that make sure that your work packages, they don't need more than 2 weeks to be completed, right? So if they need more than 2 weeks, then you should break them down into smaller deliverables. So what I'm going to do here, I have a clue about what's going on here. I have project initiation, but also I have project initiation activities, right? So I'm going to select all the project initiation activities and I'm going to indent them under project initiation. So what I'd like you to understand here, project initiation is a project management deliverable. And create project charter, prepare stakeholder analysis, whole kickoff meeting are project initiation activities. And I know they are activities because they start with an action verb, create project charter, prepare stakeholder analysis, and whole kickoff meeting. Now, how about charter created? Charter created, as you can see, the format or the nomenclature, the nomenclature here is a bit different from the activities. This is called a milestone, this one. It's called a milestone. A milestone is usually formatted with a verb in the past tense at the end, charter created, but the duration is always 0. The durations of a milestone is 0 because a milestone is not a real project activity. It is a schedule marker, something I use to tell people when things will happen. So it's a schedule marker. So that's what you need to know. So one important thing that I didn't do in this plan is that I didn't enter a start date yet. And this is one of the first things you do when you start project plan. You need to know when the project will start because everything else will be based on the start date of the project. So what I'm going to do, the start date of a project is usually in the future, but in this case, because we're practicing, I'm going to have a project start date in the past, and just so I can simulate completion project activities, etc. So to enter a start date, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on project. That's where you enter project start date. I click on project, right, and project information. And I'm going to change the start date to according to my instructions to July 1st, 2021, right? So I'm going to do that. July 1st, 2021. That's July 1st last year, right? And as you can see, the finish date, I don't enter anything. Actually, it's gray here. So you shouldn't do anything with it because we're planning from the start. We're planning from the start. I just tell the software when, I just need to tell the software when the project will start, right? So I click OK, right? And if I go back, I see my start dates here is in the past. So we're gonna work to that in a minute. So what else do I need to know? Now I'm going to stop for a minute to take questions, and then we will continue with our indentation. Questions?
Yeah, I got lost with, I'm still showing my task as numbers, not names. After the paste, it showed as names and then it immediately changed to numbers. Just
which number?
1 through, I mean, I've got all the information in, but it's all 1 through 60, not the names that were pasted in.
Okay, so you don't have the task name?
No, they were there when I did the initial paste, and then all of a sudden they automatically changed away from that.
Okay. Well, let me give you, let me show you a trick. Can you share your screen in a minute? Just for a minute.
I believe so. Stand by.
Yeah, you have share.
Yeah, I gotta get off the. I gotta get back on the Zoom link.
Oh, you're not on Zoom.
No, I'm on the Zoom. I just have to find out. I'm on 2 different computers. I apologize. Oh.
Right.
Oh, actually, you know what? No, sorry. This is going to be a poor one because I'm actually working off. Sorry, I'm working with Microsoft Project on one laptop and not on this presentation. So actually, just continue. I'll work through it.
Okay. So the reasons you might not see, if I understand well, you're not seeing the task names here, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's correct. Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so if you didn't collapse them, right, just like this, I showed that, unless you did that, you know, if you copied and pasted, you know.
That's what I did, yeah.
You should be able to, see them.
I'll try it again.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good idea to start off since we didn't do much yet. That's not yet.
Professor, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we have a new project and we have to build it from scratch, we have to first start from the Gantt chart.
Yes, the Gantt chart view is the entry view. Now let me show you. End view, Gantt chart, right? Now, if you take a look at tables, we enter information in tables, right? Because as you can see, Microsoft Project looks like a spreadsheet, right? So now if you could take a look at tables, where we enter information is called an entry table. That's the entry table. That's what you use to enter information. And by default, that's what you're going to see when you start a new file in project. By default, you'll have the entry table, but you can switch from the entry table to the cost table, to the schedule table, tracking table, variance table, earn value tables. There are a bunch of tables, and I'm going to go through some of them before we end.
So the idea here is to start from the Gantt chart and then go further with resource table and further.
Yes, that's where you start. That's
okay.
where you enter information.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Now let's continue with the indentation. Site identification, right? Now remember, project initiation is a project management deliverable. Now the most common mistakes in lab assignments is to have a bunch of project management deliverables, but no product or scope deliverables, right? So if I think about a bunch of project management deliverables, you can keep talking. You can start talking about risk management plan, quality management plan, requirement management plan, etc. You don't need a whole bunch of them in your file, right? Because we know what project management is about. We want to make sure that the product activities, the thing we're going to create, we have actually the scope in our schedule. So as you can see, I only have project initiations here and high-level planning. I don't, have to provide. If you want, you can, but as long as you have product deliverables, it's fine. So site identification is, broken down into sub-deliverables here, identifications of potential site, etc. So I'm going to indent that. I'm going to click on task and indent, right? Now, it's important to see here, I will never have activities, which will always start with a verb, and deliverables at the same level. Activities will always be at the lowest level in an indentation or a hierarchy. Here I have deliverables and sub-deliverables. And the reason I know this is a deliverable, it doesn't have a verb, right? Identifications of potential site. It doesn't say identify potential site. If it said identify, then all of these must be activities. You can't mix up activities and deliverable. Never do that, right? So I'm going to continue with that. Pre-feasibility study, I'm going to indent under it until market assessment. I'm going to do the same thing for feasibility studies and financing and contract. So these will go here and indented, right? Detailed design, right? I have this under detailed design. See, that's my hierarchy. And same thing as the spreadsheet. Site preparation is indented under construction. So I select it and indent, right? But on-site mobilizations is actually indented into under site preparations. So I'm going to click indent 2 times. 1, 2, right? So you see, construction is actually a phase. Site preparation is a deliverable. On-site mobilizations is a deliverable. Now, these are activities that will go under on-site mobilization. So I have to indent until I am at a lower level. You see that? So I have a phase, a deliverable, a sub-deliverable, and an activity, right? So these are not activities, but they're all under construction. They're under construction. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to indent once. There we go. So that's what you need to do. And I want to make sure we are on the same page, right? And once we're done, we will work on duration. So let's finish this. Monitoring and controlling activities. They are under monitoring and controlling activities, and the closing activities are actually under closing activities. Now, I'm looking for the milestone, right? Project complete is actually a milestone. It should have 0 duration, always 0 durations. If you see any milestone here, anything that I design as milestone should have 0 durations. Usually it's a good idea to have at least 1 milestone per phase to tell people when things will happen in your project, right? So the duration of the project, as you can see here, is 1 day. And the reasons for that is because I didn't link the project deliverables and activities yet, and I didn't enter duration. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to copy and paste the duration. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch, I'm going to take my information from the spreadsheet, right? In real assignments, you can type directly to in the software. So I have to make sure that I take the informations from create project charter. So I'm going to copy that, right, all the way down. Copy. And when I go to project, I have to make sure that I put my cursor right there near project charter, and I paste the information, right? You can see that things actually change quickly, and the project automatically takes the durations of the longest project deliverable here. And 690 days, that's what you should see here if you've done it properly. That's the durations of monitoring and controlling, right? Monitoring and controlling. So that's what you have here, right? And all my milestones will have 0 duration. For example, customer final acceptance secured, that's a milestone, and project complete is a milestone. So that's what you have here. Now, I would like to wait for you. Some of my tasks switch from auto schedule to manual schedule. So I'm going to select again and click on tasks and auto schedule, right? So that's perfect. I want to always make sure that whenever you submit a file to your instructor, that you're going to be on auto schedule, or at work, unless you want an activity or deliverable to be manually scheduled because you don't want the software to take it into considerations. You may have many reasons for that. You have to make sure that your task mode is on auto schedule. As you can see, the software is actually doing some work for us here. Based on the project schedule and the intentions we create, we didn't actually link activities yet. The software start, making sure that the project durations will match the durations of the longest deliverables or activities. Monitoring and controlling is here, which makes sense because you start monitoring and controlling when the work of the project starts, and you don't finish monitoring and controlling your project work until the end of the project. So that's what we call a hammock activity. In some other software applications, you can create what we call a monitor and control task, which allows you to control the project. So here we are. And so far, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So I'm going to stop a minute and to take questions. Yes, and Lowy asked, high-level project planning is not indented under project initiation. No, we just leave it under project management. And that's because if you wanted to, you can actually develop this a little bit further. And in project management, if we're using a PMI framework, for example, we have what we call 5 processes. We have initiation and planning, right, and execution, right? So initiation and planning are usually separated. So that's why I leave it apart, just for you to understand. Someone said, can I show again how to indent? Well, the way you indent is by selecting the item you want to indent underneath whatever you want to indent. And when you select them, right, and if you're in the task tab, you click indent. This is the indent and outdent feature. In other words, you can indent, you can outdent, right? So that's one of the things you can do. So, so far, any other questions here?
Professor?
Yes.
How do we decide a specific duration for every deliverable or any action over here?
Well, this is what we call estimates, right? You create estimates, and how do we know whether something will take 5 days or 8 days? You know, it's all about the experience, right? If you work with your team members, some of them may have experience about the work, right? Or you may you may be working with a contractor. The contractor will tell you how long things will take. So that's the way to do it. In planning, you don't do it alone. You do it with people who are actually familiar with the work, who will give you good estimates, right? Without that, you just guess. You're going to enter your best guess, then the data will not help you really to have an accurate estimate of the completions of your project costs and time. So you need to make sure people who know about this help you with it. So how do we indent from access wood to office space? Well, you have to select what you want to indent. I wanted to indent access wood to up all the way up to, I think, commissioning under construction, right? So I just create one, I just select it and click indent. So that's what I did, right? Now, this is one indentation. If you wanted access wood and office space to be under site preparations, you just select it and indent it. As you can see, access wood, from access wood to office space, we have a little bit indentation further than equipment acquisitions and commissioning, which are only under constructions, but this access wood and office space, they are under site preparations, but they're not quite under site mobilizations. You see, under site mobilization, I have the activities and they're further indented than everything else, right? So that's the way you think. And that's a perfect example on how you need to do it in your lab assignments, right? So, so we entered the durations. One thing I can tell you for best practice purposes, in project planning, it is always better to use one unit of measure for planning. In other words, you don't mix up days and weeks. You use only days. Here, what I show you here is that if you mix them up, project will convert everything to days when it tries to give you a durations for your entire project. It's not going to be a problem because project will use 5 days for 1 week. So if you have 6 weeks, project will say, well, that's going to be 6 times 5 days. So that's, and project will also take into considerations holidays that you enter in the computer, etc. Right? So that's, those are things that we need to take into considerations. And you can actually custom design the calendar for a project. If you're working on a project that has a different calendar than your organizations. For example, say that my project only works only people will only work 4 days a week. From Monday to Thursday, then you can create your calendar, say, well, the rest of the organization is going to work Monday to Friday, but on this project, we're going to work Monday to Thursday. You can certainly do that. If you click on project here, you can do this in change working time, right? That's what you would do something like that. So, before we go and take a bunch of questions, I'm going to try to cover the most important things for you. The most important things for you, I know most of you will be working on lab assignment. So I want to make sure I cover key things you're going to need. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to push this separator bar a little bit further to show you informations that we can have here. This is what we have. Okay. So, so far we talk about task mode. We talk about the entry table where we enter informations in project, and we talk about duration, time unit for scheduling. Project will convert everything into days. So we don't enter start and finish dates for the project activity, for the project activities and deliverables. Project will estimate those things for you. Don't type those things unless you want to set a constraint. If you want to set a constraint, there is a way to do that. You can, select any of this information and task and look for your task information, right? And you can set, constraint here in the task information dialog box, right? You can enter any constraint types that you want. And you can, change the type of the tasks you have, because some tasks are going to be fixed durations, fixed unit, and fixed work. By default, it is fixed unit, right? The unit is the number of people you assign to your project activities. And we're going to talk about resource assignments in a minute, right? So what do we need to do now is to understand how the work will be performed. Because the key reason to develop a schedule for a project is not only to understand the flow of work, but also to know the critical part of the project and to understand how to manage it most effectively and efficiently. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to link project activities, and there are many ways to do that. So to develop a diagram, a network diagram, or to develop a good project schedule is to make sure that every item in your schedule is linked to one another. For example, the project, every activity in your project should have a predecessor, right? Except the first one. Create project charter will not have a predecessor because it's the first activity in the file. But other than that, every single activity or item should have a predecessor. Now, don't worry about summary activities or summary tasks because we will work with the sub, right? So when we link things, when we estimate things, we don't estimate the sub, we estimate we don't estimate the summary task, we estimate the subtask, right? So if I know durations of the subtask, then this will roll up to give me the durations of the summary task. For example, 65 days here, when I link them, it will change. For example, I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm going to click on all this and I'm going to click on tasks, and I'm going to click on link the selected task, right? This is the linked feature, right? When I linked those tasks, as you can see, the predecessor column, has information now, right? So if I undo, there's nothing there, there was nothing, but I'm going to link those items, activities, and milestone, all of them. So they link now together. So if you take a look at my Gantt chart view, let's pull it closer, view, and put that closer to me, right? You'll see some change here. Let me remove that. there is a bar at the bottom. Put this up. There is a horizontal bar here. You can push to see what's going on. So this is what the linking look like, the linking of tasks. Now, what does that mean exactly? It means every activity in a Gantt chart is represented by a bar, right? And the length of the bar represents the duration of the activity. So create project charter, for example, is going to span over 10 days. As you can see, the bar will span over 10 days from the start to the finish time. And this arrow from project charter to prepare, create project charter to prepare stakeholder analysis, this arrow here is telling me those two activities are linked in a finish to start relationship, right? So what does that mean? It means that I must finish, create the project charter, and then start to prepare the stakeholder analysis, right? If this is what you want to do, that's how you want to do it. Now, this is what it says. It says 3, this is task number 4, and the predecessor is 3. It means the predecessor is create project charter. The number 3 is the task ID. So that's what you're going to see in the predecessor. Number 4 is this task ID here. Number 5 is this task ID, right? So that's what you're looking at here. So when you link things, if I remove this link, remember duration of the project initiation, so I delete that. As you can see, project initiation duration now is 10 days, right? It's the durations of the longest task in time, right? But when I link them, it's add them up. If it is finished to start, it will add the durations. So I'm going to do it again, click on task, and then length. You see, change from 10 days to 16 days. And the 16 days is 10 plus 5 plus 1, right? So that's what you're looking at. Now, can I find a way to do things in parallel instead of in sequence? If I can't actually do things in parallel, so at the same time, if I can't multitask, maybe I can reduce the durations of project initiation. Can I prepare stakeholder analysis and create project charter at the same time, right? If I can do that, maybe I can reduce the durations of project initiation. And what you need to remember is that you can schedule things finish to start, that's in sequence, but you can also schedule things start to start and finish to finish. This is where you have the opportunity to work on things at the same time. Just in project management, this is called fast tracking. Now, the way you say do something like that is to tell the software that, prepare stakeholder analysis and create project charter could be done at the same time. Let's say, well, I start the project charter when I have certain information, then I can, start working on my stakeholder analysis. Then you would type a 3SS, for example. A 3SS would mean, create project charter and prepare stakeholder analysis can have a start-to-start relationship. Now, will the durations of project initiation change? Now, let's click enter. As you can see here, project initiation duration reduces from 16 days to 10 days. And that's because you can actually save time by completing project prepare stakeholder analysis at the same time you complete project charter. You save time, right? Instead of do one and then the other, can I do them at the same time? Multitasking means that you need resources. If you don't have the resources, or if the nature of the job does not allow you to do that, then you won't be able to do it. Then you're going to have to work, finish to start. Then your project will take longer. But scheduling is the art of understanding how you can do things at the same time as much as possible to expedite your project. Because the goal of the project manager and the project team is to deliver the project effectively and efficiently. And efficiency also can be seen, in time management. Can you deliver this project in 10 days instead of 20 days? And when you become an expert in scheduling, is to be able to look at your project, say, well, what resources do I have, and how many things I can actually schedule at the same time? The fast tracking technique we talk about, Lisa. So I'm going to stop here in a minute before I copy the links, because I can, just select things and link them. For example, here, I can link those two activities by selecting the first one and the second one. Here, select them, task, and link, right? And to link this one and that one, I'm not going to link any summary things. I'm going to link this one and the first activity here by using the control functions. I select this one, control, select this, and then I link them, right? That's how I link this. As you can see, there is nothing here near the summary task, because you don't want that, because you're going to create circular links in your project, and you may have mistakes in it. So to link site identifications and pre-feasibility study, all I need to do is to link this one and that, right? So that's what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it. Okay, so first, I'm going to take questions, and then we're going to copy and paste the information. Questions, please. Questions? No?
So, Professor, what is the process of linking? Like, you link the high-level planning with the site identification, right? How did you decide to link those two things?
If I understand the way the project is going on, right? I would like to finish planning before I start any work. I decide that because in management, planning precedes everything else, right? Or planning precedes all other management actions, right? So what I'd like to do, if I'm the project manager planning this project, what I'd like to do, I'd like to finish planning and then start working on, site identification, feasibility studies, etc. So if this is not part of planning, I'd like to plan first and then, start working on site identifications, which means that there is a finish to start relationship between site identifications and plan.
Got it.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this information from the predecessor column, right? From the spreadsheet. I'm copying information from prepare stakeholder analysis. And I know this is correct because create project charter is the first activity that doesn't have a predecessor. So I'm going to copy from here. All the way down. Okay, I didn't copy. Select an N. Okay, copy. Now I did copy it. Now I'm going back to project. And let me delete this just to make sure. I put my cursor here and paste. Right. So copy, paste this. So I want to make sure that everything is okay. If I see anywhere where I have anything with a summary task with an estimate with a predecessor, I make sure I fix it. It looks like everything is all right here so far. Now, access would must be linked. Why don't I have something for it? Let's look for access would. It's linked to 33, but the question is, what is 33? It cannot be linked to 33 because it's under site preparation, so you can't link a task with its subtask. Never, ever do that. And the software actually will not allow you to do it, right? So you can actually link access would with 39, perhaps. It's a good choice. It will allow you to do that. I'm going to make sure I have everything needed. So when you copy and paste the predecessors, right? If there is any secular link where you link a task with its subtask, project gonna tell you, well, that's not actually possible, right? So you know everything is okay. Now the duration, total durations of the project will be 736 days. Does everyone have that? 736 days?
Professor, when I'm copying the predecessors from Excel sheet, the duration start and finish are showing blanks. It's going blank. Everything is going off.
If everything is going blank?
Yeah, everything is going blank.
Oh, well, it shouldn't do that because, you know, we, as you can see, you know, I just copied and pasted here. I don't know if you copy from the spreadsheet, you can try to do it again, right? And place your cursor near pre-pass stakeholder analysis, right? And that's how I did it because I copy from Excel, but I want to make sure that I do it exactly because the matching must work. You must match what is in the spreadsheet with what you're doing in the project. And remember, when you work on your lab, you don't need to work in Excel and then copy and paste. You can work directly here. If you want, you can say, well, if you type 6 here, you just mean that task 6, whole project of meeting, is a predecessor to planning. And that is if you want to finish project initiation to start project planning, which is the way people usually do it. Project management is a process. We start with project initiation, then planning. And so once we have a plan, we execute the plan, right? So right now we are working on creating a schedule for the work we are actually going to do. Anyone else? Do we have questions in the chat? Okay, so it's so great. Okay, so James, the reason to have 734, it's just a difference in indentation, I think. Something that you're supposed to indent, you didn't indent. But other than that, if you copied and pasted, so the duration should be the same, right? Maybe it's this indentation, perhaps. Many of you may not have indented access would to office space to fall under site preparations. If I outdent, for example, what does that do to me? No, that's not what your problem is, right? So if you took a look at your indentions, your hierarchy, that is where your problem will be, right? For now, it's okay. So what else? What are other things we have? Okay. So I think it's because I have 7. Oh, I see. Oh, probably. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so so as you can see here now, if you click on if you click anywhere here in the plan and click on View, and there is a magnifier glass here for a task, it will pull the task near you so you can see what's going on with it, right? Or you can take a look at have a better view of your project by looking at what's going on here, right? So that's what you're looking at, right? So from one thing we didn't look at yet is the idea of working with calendar. I think we mentioned that just very quickly. We can certainly go back to it. So the next thing I'd like you to know here is to work with the task information dialog box. I'm going to put this down. All right. So by selecting any task and right click and click on information, you can, remember, make a lot of changes here. For example, if you click on predecessors, you can see the task you select has task 7 as the predecessor, right? And you can see the type of dependency they have. Finish to start, and this is something you can actually change. You can change the type of dependency from finish to start to start to start. It's entirely up to you. But we already have some here. As you can see, all the monitoring and controlling activities will happen at the same time. For example, task 45, we say we can perform at the same time as task 33. Here's task 33, right? Now, task 33, if you want, you can link that to a subtask instead of a submetask, right? So install temporary power and temporal water service, etc. Water temporary pressing, any of these will certainly work, right? And you can enter finish to start relationship too, or finish to finish, right? Start to start, we already see that. You can have a finish to finish, right? Let's say take any, if you take a look at your project file, you will have different project files to see what can be start to start and finish to finish. So when you understand that, you can actually make those changes. Now, one thing that I wanted to talk about is the idea of lead and lag time, right? Let's go to take a look at task information. Cost benefits analysis. Right click on it, task information. When you take a look at predecessors here, you can enter lag time or lead time under lag. So a lag time is a waiting time between two activities or two deliverables that have a relationship. In other words, they must have some sort of relationship. So cost benefits analysis and permitting, right? This is, and permitting, they have a relationship. Let me click on the task information, right? So what I can say, when I click on predecessor, I can have a lag. Let's take a look at how they are scheduled right now. Finish to start, right? You can have a lag time between two activities. It's a waiting time. Let's say, well, we need to wait a certain number of days after cost benefits analysis before we apply for permitting for whatever the reasons. You may be waiting for your stakeholders to give you a signal when to go and start working on permit. So lag time would be a positive number here, let's say 3 days. So if I click OK, as you can see, this moves a little bit. Now it is presented here that there is a finish to start relationship between those two activities with a 3 days lag time. All right. So that's what you're seeing here. Let me go back, task information, and show you what a lead time is going to be looking like, what's going to look like. So a lead time is a negative lag. That's how you enter it in the process. If I enter -3 here, then I have a lead time. So lead time is an acceleration between two activities or two items that have a relationship, right? So instead of 3 days plus 3 days, I have -3 days. What does that mean exactly? It means that I don't actually need to wait for cost analysis to perform, so I can do it 3 days after this task cost analysis started. There's a 3 days acceleration point here. So that's one way to do that. So I'm going to remove this. That I just wanted to demonstrate this. So I'm going to change it to 14, just 14. And my project duration is still the same. All right. So those are things that, what else you need to know? You need to make sure you understand as your project progresses, you will need to report progress to your stakeholders. As you can see here, those activities were planned in 2021, and here I have activities up until February, April, that I could say, well, based on this date here, I could say, well, those activities are actually done. They completed activities. And to do that, you go to tasks, right? And from tasks, you can mark things 100% complete. If they are 100% complete, you can click on task and click here, 100% complete. Sometimes you may have tasks that are not 100% complete. You have also the options of saying in 75, 50, or 25. Now you're asking me how you know, but your project team or the people assigned to those activities will tell you. They'll give you updates, progress updates on those tasks. Now, when you click on 100% complete in this column, it's called the indicators column, you see a check mark. It means that all those activities are actually complete. And you can see this also in the Gantt bar. They have some sort of dark blue in the middle of the Gantt bar to tell you the completed activities, right? So by completed activities, you don't have to do anything with that. But we can't do this now. We can't do this now because we need resources to complete those activities. And we didn't assign resources yet. So that's why I am going to click on 0, right? So I click on task 0 or 100%. We're gonna do that later. But I have to work on my resources first. I need to work on resources, and I want to make sure that I have contingency in my plan. So far, key things to remember: the hierarchy must make sense, right? Second, activities and deliverables are not the same. They not express the same. Activities start with an action verb. Deliverables are expressed as nouns, adjectives. High-level planning, identifications of potential site, right? So that's nouns, adjectives. So the other thing to know is when you enter durations, make sure you enter everything in one time unit. So that's going to be something important. So let's make sure we work on our resources. The way to work on our resources is from the resource sheet. So let's click on view, right? And click on resource sheet, right? So let's take a look at our spreadsheet to make sure that the mapping is correct. So if you go to the spreadsheet, there is this resource sheet here. So look at what we have. We have resource name, type of resources. In Microsoft Project, you have 3 types. You have work, material, and cost. And material label, max units, that's resource availability. Max unit only applies to work resources. And obviously, the standard rate, how much we paying people or for resources. And then I have cost per use accrued at, prorated or at the end or at the beginning. And then I have base calendar. So I have to map my project to file to look the same when you copy and paste. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to project, resource name, type, material label, initials. I don't have that in the spreadsheet. I'm going to hide it, all right? Just right click and click hide. I don't have groups. I'm going to hide that, hide it, all right? So I don't have overtime. I don't remember I saw overtime. I didn't use overtime, so I'm going to hide it, right? So that's what I have in the spreadsheet, right? So if I copy and paste now, it should probably work. So I'm going to click on here, right? I don't need the top. I just need project manager, and everything here should work. Let's go back. And then paste. Perfect. See that? So it looks like I'm missing my labels here. From here to control system. There we go. Okay. Are you guys okay? Okay. So let's take a look at what we have in the chart. Now, would you go about unhiding a column? Okay, how would you do that? Unhiding, yeah, you just right click anytime, anywhere you'd like to insert it, and you click insert column, right? So what did I hide? I hid initial. If you type, see, initial, it's already there. You can bring it back if you. I'm going to hide this again. All right. So what else? What are the questions we have? Oh, sure. You're welcome. Okay. So now we have resources. When you have resources, you can assign resources to project activities, right? So normally, the way to assign resources to project activities is like this, is to first, let's go to view, right? Let's go to the gun view. This is where we do that. We click on view and let's go to the gun view. Right now I'm in the resource sheet view. Let's go to here, right? I can select any resource or any task, right? And click on resource and click on assign resources, right? As you can see, this box allows me to select resources and assign them to anything. But I'm not going to assign resources to a milestone. You don't do that. You never assign resources to a milestone because milestones, they have 0 durations. They're not real activities. You don't want to assign resources to, but you want to assign resources to create project charter, prepare stakeholder analysis, etc. All activities must have resource assignment except milestones, all right? So when you take a look at summary tasks and subtasks, if a task has subtasks, right, it is a summary task. You don't assign resources to summary tasks, you assign resources to the subtask and to the subtask only, right? So that's what we need to remember. So what do we do now? Let's enlarge this column, resources. So instead of, let me show you something here. If you take a look at your spreadsheet here, I have the project, I have project administrators, project coordinators, and project managers assigned to create project charter. Now, I can just copy and paste here, or I can just type in Microsoft Project, but I wanted to show you how to do it. So I'm going to do it the way you would do it if you're working from scratch, right? So you would select that task and you say, assign resources, and you look for the project. You look for the project administrators. It should be here. The project administrators. You can select everything at the same time by using the Shift Alt-3. Now, the tricky things is we talk about resource driven. We talk about effort-driven scheduling technique. Effort-driven scheduling technique means that if I assign one person to a task, and then I assign another person, project will reduce the duration of the task, thinking that the only reason I'm doing this is because I want to assign more people so as to reduce the duration, to expedite the task. So if I don't want effort-driven scheduling technique works, I need to assign the resources at the same time. So that's why I'm going to select them at the same time here. And I'm going to click assign, right? So when you assign, project generate a cost for you. And that's because in the resource sheet, I entered standard rate for those people. I'm paying them per hour, and Microsoft Project estimate the work hours of those people and calculate a labor cost or an overhead cost for me based on the pay rate. So that's what you see right here. So that's what now, if you take a look at the resource names, I have the project administrator, project coordinators, and project managers assigned to create project charter. So that's what you see in the spreadsheet. So that's how you would do it. You'd select, just select it and enter it. So in this case, because I'd like to go faster, we don't have all the times we want. I'm not going to do everything manually, so I'm going to copy and paste the remaining informations here. So I'm going to go from project, from prepare stakeholder analysis, and I'm going to select all the resource assignment here, all the way down, copy. I'm going to go to project and paste the information, all right? So that's what we have. Now,
Professor, sorry to interrupt you. Can I know how we can go back from resource page to this original page?
from what?
From resources page to this original page.
Oh, so you click on view, right? We click on view. If you are here on the resource sheet, right? Then you click on Gantt chart. That will take you to the default view in Microsoft Project, which is the entry table and the Gantt chart on the right side.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So when you, so planning is really important, but the plan must make sense. And you've been actually asking very relevant questions throughout this sessions. For example, how do I decide this or that? How do I know how to do it? All this knowledge, as I said, will come with experience. And when you assign resources, you have to make sure that resources are assigned to all your project activities here. And what you can see I have here on the indicator column, I have a person in red. It means that I have an over allocation, right? That's what this indication means. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the resource sheet to see who is over allocated is the civil engineer. And an over allocation, an over allocated schedule or plan is not a good plan because, you know, people won't be able to finish their work on time if you assign them to work more than they have time. So I need to make sure that I fix all over allocation before I do anything else. Now, to fix over allocations, there are many ways to do that. You can take a look at the resource usage to see where the resources are allocated, right? So if you use this horizontal bar, you can go back and forth to see, you know, from the start of the plan to wherever you want to go and see where in the plan these resources are located. And I just found it, right? I just found it here is because you see on those days where you have 16 hours is where the resource was to work 16 hours a day, like on this Friday and on this Monday through Friday, et cetera, right? So normally you go and understand where you can help the resource, on which activity or task they are allocated, and find some other people to help. That's where you go about doing this. At the start of the planning phase, it is also possible to do this automatically, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my Gantt chart view. I click view, Gantt chart, right? Take a look at my plan, etc. When I know where the resources are located, I can always see who is available. And the way to do that is to take a look at, you know, who does what when, to see how many hours they're working, whether the activities to which they're assigned have slack time or not. And you can see that. Let me show you. If you click on view, and let's take a look at a tracking Gantt, for example. So now what the tracking Gantt does, which the regular Gantt view doesn't, it shows you the critical path. Now, let me show you again. Anything you see in red is on the critical path. So the activities highlighted in red are activities on the critical path. As you can see here, by knowing what is on the critical path, then I can actually decide how people will help, right? If people have time. Another way to take a look at it is to say, well, since I'm in the beginning of planning, let me use the auto level feature. Now, fixing of allocations is called schedule leveling. Schedule leveling means that you're gonna try to reduce the peaks and valleys, right? The civil engineer is allocated, I know, in some parts of the project, but by looking at the resource usage, can you find days where he is or she's working only 4 hours, right? So if you can fix those things, that would be one way to work on your schedule. In project, there is an auto leveling feature that you can use. And I think if you take a look at resource, right? If you click on resource, you can see where you can level your plan, right? Reducing the peaks and valleys. Where people have 16 hours, the software will reduce them to 8 hours, or based on the calendar, right? In availability. And I'm going to talk about availability in a moment. So if I click level all, right, it tells me this of allocations cannot be resolved, right? Civil engineer is allocated in this plan because of the combined assessment of summary task site preparation and subordinate tasks on this. So what I want to do, remember I told you to never link summary tasks and subtasks. So we need to make sure we don't have this issue in our plan. And this is when the software is actually, proving my plan. Whenever you link, for example, the site preparations and its subordinates, then that's what you're going to have some problem. No, so what I'm going to do, we're going to make sure that we take a look at site preparations, right? Now, this is perfect. That doesn't have any problem. So let's take a look at anything here. Task site preparations is 33, right? We want to make sure that anything we have here is not linked with its subtask. Now, equipment acquisition, if it is under subtask site preparations, then we have to make sure we don't have that. Now, what is this? This is 34, right? Now, let's look at where we have 34 here. Do we have 34 anywhere here? But we have 33. This is 33. This is 33. So let's say here, let's do a finish to acquisitions of equipment. Let's do SS with 35. We can do 35. This is 35 SS, right? Right? Thing change here, right? Now let's level again. Let's say level all, right? What do we have? We have the combined assignment of site preparations and subtasks. Okay. There we go. So 33 is site preparation and 34 is underneath, right? So let's take a look at here to see what we have. I don't see any 31. This is 31. Okay, 31. This is the link with 31. 35. This is link 35. 36, 37. 38, 39, 40, 41, 43, 47. Okay, let's keep looking here. And 48. Where is 48? This is 48, right? So we're analyzing here. Commissioning 48. And this is 59. Now, if it gives you the same message, and where you see there is no link between a summary task and subtask, because if we take a look here, we don't see any link with 34, from 32 to 34, we don't see any link here with this because there is no other subtask. Now let's click level again. Level. Now, if you receive this message, it means that this is something you need to do manually. And let's analyze all our dependencies. No summary task and subtask. That's perfect. No summary task and subtask. No summary task. Okay, how about this one? Oh, I know now. It has resources assigned to it. Now you have to remove that. That's what you need to do. Now, the rule is we don't assign resources to summary tasks. We assign resources only to subtasks, right? So that's what the problem was. So the civil engineer was assigned not only to the subtask, but also to the summary. That's bad. Now, by deleting that, we solve our allocation. So that's what, sometimes you may not know immediately what's going on, but by learning and working with the software and try to understand how it works behind the scene, you will solve your problem. So it's looking at your resources. Right now, install temporary power and equipment acquisitions. We can say, well, should we examine those things at the same time? So then you would create SS or finish to finish. We can say. Now, if I go back to my resource sheet view, I can take a look here. We have no overallocations. Another way to solve overallocations is to do it manually by going to the resource usage view and look where the overallocations are, right? When you find them, for example, you see here, 8 hours. But if you see there was another 8 hours here, now you have overallocations, right? You'd have an overallocation. I'm going to undo that, right? So if I see here, on any specific day where you have to work 8 hours, you're working 16 hours, then I said, well, I can change that, right? So here we have a civil engineer who is not overallocated. Okay, here we go. So before I take your questions on this, I'm going to go back to the resource sheet view and show you how to add contingency reserve to your project. Now, that's an important thing. You don't want to miss that. The way to do that is to go to the resource sheet, right, and create a resource called contingency reserve, right? So the contingency reserve is not going to be a cost resource. It's not going to be a work resource. It's going to be a cost resource, right? So for cost resource, you can't enter a rate in the resource sheet. Like, as you can see, I enter information for everything else except cost, right? The way to enter it, contingency, is to first understand, know what the total cost of the project is. Now, click on View, Got, right? Now, to take a look at the cost of my project, I can insert a column here. I call it cost, right? And I see the cost of task 1, which is the indented cost of task 1. Now, if there's a question mark here, it's mean that there is a task where I didn't enter duration. I don't need this, I'm going to delete it. So the total cost of my project is $850,000. So 10% of that is the contingency reserve. So I need to choose where to add contingency reserve. I can add contingency reserve in different parts of my project or in one part of my project, all right? So I calculate 10% of that. And to be sure, I want to see not only task 1, but also task 0, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Gantt chart format, right? Click on Gantt chart format. Right? And click on some project summary task. And that's when you click on project summary task, it will show you task 0. It will show you task 0. So that's when. Now, if you have any of our locations, remember, you can always go to resource and level. So easy that you never submit your file to your instructor with other allocation. Just click on resource level, right? If there is no problem, if you didn't assign resources to summary tasks, or if you didn't link summary tasks and subtasks, then you shouldn't have any problem, right? So that should be doing. So contingency reserve, I know that I need some contingency reserve in the development of technical concept. So I click on it, I click assign resources, and I look for contingency reserve. Contingency reserve, right? And I want to add 20 grand contingency reserve here. That's it. I select it and I type under cost. That's the only way you can do it. So that's give me, and I want to add contingency reserve in, let's say, in the design, preparations of detailed design for relevant lot, right? So I look for contingency reserve. And I'm going to add the 15 grand here. All right, so that's what I did. That's how I do. Now, if I go back to my resource sheet, click on View, right, and click on Resource Sheet, right. This is my contingency reserve. I want to make sure that the cost actually is here. So I'm going to insert the cost column here. You can just right-click and insert and type cost, right, and press enter. As you can see, I entered $35,000 of the contingency reserve already. When I have my total contingency reserve, because your instructor may say, well, the contingency reserve must be 10% of the total project cost, make sure that this is 10% of the total project cost. And once I don't have any of our allocations, I don't see any resource in red here, that's for work resources. Work resources, you use that type of resource when you want to track time for people, consultants, or machine. But for material, they always, materials and overhead, like travel, IT support costs, they always cost type. So after I've done that, what I'm going to do now, what is it I need to do? I need to set up a project baseline when I'm done, when my plan is perfect. View, I go back to the Gantt view, take a look at here. Now I'm in the tracking Gantt view. If I want, I can go to the Gantt chart. You can see that the Gantt chart view doesn't show you the critical activities, but the tracking will show you the critical activities. So what else I need? I need to set a baseline. If all my activities have resource assignment, you take a look here in the resource usage to see what is under unassigned. I have here control, verify scope, and control costs unassigned, but all project activities must have resource assignment except Milestone. And when I take a look here, I have Milestone here, right? Milestone. And so what I didn't assign resource is to are these activities, the controlling and monitoring activities. I didn't assign resources to them. If you want, I can actually highlight that for you. But what you're gonna have here, only the milestone. So that's good. That's a good sign that you've done everything properly, which means every activity in your project will be completed because they have resources. The project manager and the project coordinator and project administrators will take care of monitoring and controlling project activities. So let me go back to my Gantt chart and I take a look at my plan. Everything seems to be fine. Then I can set a baseline. A baseline is practically a picture of your plan. You take the picture and you say, well, that's what I'm going to use to compare my performance later. I plan to finish this on a certain date. I plan to spend that much money on a certain date. And by completing this or that, let's see how I fare. You see what I mean? So that's when you set a baseline. By setting a baseline, you just click on project. To set a baseline, you click on project, set baseline, and you click on set baseline. All right? And you say, well, I'm going to set a baseline for the entire project. You can always clear the baseline if you want. By coming here in the same place you set the baseline, you can clear the baseline. So I'm going to stop here in a minute. It's looked like I covered a lot of things that are mentioned in the lab assignments. If you were able to take a look at them and anything I can help with, please, it's a good time to ask questions. The floor is yours now. Questions? Questions?
Hi, Professor. This is Vani here. I just wanted to know, is there a field where we can link the information as such? For example, here you have a field called Create Project Charter. So is there a link where I can already put in the charter there? So it will be an easy way to have a look at it. So that option is not there in MS Project.
You mean a way to link the project charter here?
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, you can do that. You can enter that in project information and task information. If you click on task informations here, you can actually enter task note. In the task note, you can add links. And when people click on the links, it will go to the document.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something you can certainly do without any problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Other questions? And task 0 here, practically you can hide it. You don't have to show task 0. Microsoft Project is one of few software applications that has a task 0. So I'm going to click on Gantt chart format, and I'm going to remove it. I just wanted to make sure that the total cost of my project was okay. So I'm going to remove it. And another thing I didn't show you is how to create an outline for your WBS. If you click on Gantt chart format and then you click outline numbers, that's, create an outline for number for your project activities. So very easy to do. Just check this box here from the Gantt chart format. Let's see. It looks like we have some questions in the chat. Can you please review how you set the values for the contingency reserve? Okay. Yes. So to add contingency reserve to the project. So what I did, I click on View Resource Sheet, right? I create a resource called contingency reserve, cost type, right? And after I've done that, I go to the Gantt chart, right? And I select where I want to add reserve. And I said, I did two tasks before. I could ask reserve to install temporary power, for example. I click on it and I click on resource, assign resources, and I look for contingency reserve, right? And I'm going to add $10,000 to install temporary power. So, and I click assign, and that's how I did it. And as you can see here, if you take a look at the resource column, I have $10,000 reserve here. Where else? And I have $15,000 there, and I have $20,000 here. So if I go back to the reserve sheet, I can see I have more money in reserve now.
Okay, I think my problem is I'm missing the cost column.
Yeah.
In the resource sheet.
And the resource sheet, yeah, you can just enter it. You can just, right click, insert, and then type cost, and then click enter. Right? Okay. So by doing so, it's give you the opportunity to check whether you have costs. For example, whether I have 0 here, I know I have zeros because I didn't spend any money on those things, which means I didn't assign resources to them, right? So, it's a problem because if you have, it's not always a problem. If your project is not complete yet, it means that those are probably resources you're going to use later in the project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, so I'm not able to assign a value. That $45,000 you've got there, how did you get that value in there? I see.
Okay, so after you create contingency reserve and cost column, you have to go back to the Gantt chart, right? And select where you want to add the reserve, because if you take a look at your project,
right? I did that. I have a contingency reserve.
Okay.
But I don't have a value there.
Okay, so now select identification. Okay, so where do I have reserve?
You have that under line 11, for example.
Okay, so select that, right? And click on resource, right? And click on assign resources.
Okay, hold on. So right click on resources and then do assign resources. Okay. Yep.
And then yes.
And then you have to manually assign.
If you can manually assign it.
Okay. So
you type here.
Yeah, it's fine. I got it. Yeah.
And then you click assign. That should do it.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, when you go back, you should see money.
I do see that now. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now that's a way to make sure that you didn't skip this. It's always good to go back and check.
Okay, and how much did you have for contingency reserve under line 29?
Yeah, you can type any amount.
It doesn't matter. Okay, but
it doesn't matter here because for your project you just need to know what is the total cost because your lab assignment is going to ask you to take 10% of your project total cost. You just need to make sure you find the total cost of your project and take 10% of it, right? So, and right now, I know this money has contingency reserve included in it. You see what I mean? So because I know the total cost of my project before I calculated the reserve amount. So whenever you can go to this view, the default Gantt chart view, or here or anywhere, and enter the cost column to see the total cost of your project. So the cost baseline should be the cost of the project deliverables plus the contingency reserve. So don't set the baseline until you add reserve. So you must make sure that your baseline has the reserve included in it. If you need to clear a baseline, you just go to project baseline, right? Clear baseline, right? And then you can make sure you set it again.
Okay, could you review set baseline again then? I'm sorry. Well,
okay, sure. You click on project, set baseline, right? Now, when you click on set baseline, what it's going to do, it's going to take a picture of what you have, and that's what it's going to use later as the project progresses to compare how you are actually doing compared to the baseline.
Okay. So you did a manual calculation based on the original amount of 10%. And
yes.
Then you allocated that. Okay.
Yes. To different parts of the project, wherever you see fit. Yes. Other questions? So now, since you have a baseline, let's take a look at project statistics, right? Project data. Now, if you click on project information, click on statistics, right? As you can see here, I have a baseline, right? I have duration baseline, I have work baseline, cost baseline. I have a finish baseline too. So once you have a baseline, once the project is underway, you can report progress. For example, you can assume that anything that is from the start of the project to date, we are here we're not in June yet, so I'm going to start to April 15, and I'm going to say, well, all those tasks, deliverables and activities are 100% complete. So I'm going to click on task and say 100% complete, right? So that's how I have this finished it. Now, if you go back, if you remember when I went to project statistics, I didn't have any actual values, but right now, if I go back to project statistics, I will have actual values, right? Actual values, particularly how much money I've spent so far in the project, right? So, and by entering % complete, you can say, well, work, you can see work here is 35% complete. So that's how you report progress in a project plan. Now, sometimes if you take a look at plan finish or plan durations and actual durations and actual finish, you may see a discrepancy. And if you have a discrepancy between the two, If actual values and planned values are not the same, this is when you're going to see a variance here. So the variance is going to be your gap between your baseline and the actual values in your project plans. All right, so that's where you enter, that's where you check this information. So if an assignment requires you to simulate variances, the way to do it is to report progress and then go to the completed task. For example, if I switch view, I'm going to change the table. I could say, let's say I'm going to look at a variance table, all right? In a variance table, you will look at finish variance, start variance, and if you want to remember, you can always enter information. Here I have start, finish, baseline start, baseline finish, right? So I could enter information here by, right click, insert, actual finish. I can have actual finish, right? As you can see, the baseline finish and the actual finish are the same, which means you don't have any discrepancy or any variance in your plan. So you can always change the actual. Never change the baseline, because you don't change the baseline unless you purposely want to change the baseline. What you change is to say, well, I know project charter, for example, we plan to finish project charter. Let me make sure that we can read this. We plan to finish project charter, where's project charter, on 7/14, but we didn't, right? So you said, actually, we didn't finish on 7/14, we finish the next week after that. You see that? That's a change. For prepare stakeholder analysis, we were actually a little bit behind too. A week later, we finish it a week later. So you try to simulate variances here, and the way this will be reflected in your project statistic, it will say, well, if you go to project informations, if you have enough variances, then you'll see a differentiation in costs, for example. By finishing behind, it could mean that you spend more money. So I can see my baseline cost and my current cost, which is the estimated completion cost of the project, are not the same. And if you want to see a little bit better here, you can click on view, take a look at an end value table. Let's look for an end value table. All right, you can see here, there is you still have a positive variance at completion. The positive variance at completions here means that if the project progresses the same way, at the end, you will have a budget surplus of $18,000. But in terms of where you are right now in your project, as you can see, you have a schedule variance of $23,200 and a cost variance, not so much. And the reason for that is because, remember, the thing that I plan to finish a week prior, I have to create project charter and prepare stakeholder analysis. They both took me 1 more week. So that's why here I have a negative. I have a negative schedule variance. I'm a little bit behind schedule here, but I don't have a cost issue. right? I don't have a cost issue, at least not yet, not at this point in this project. In terms of predicting the future, the best way to look at the future is to look at VAC, the variance at completion, because it tells you if your productivity or efficiency does not change, you will have a budget surplus of $18,000. If it's negative, it's going to be a budget deficit, right? So here it's positive, so that's a good thing. As you can see, it might not be the same for individual project activity because they give you different, but in total, you're still in good shape, right? Not so much for project initiations because remember you are behind, but for the entire project, you're still in good shape in terms of money. So that's one way to take a look at your project. So do we have any questions in the chat? Did you get to how did I get to project statistics? Okay, I click on project information, and project statistics. And how did I get to the earned value table? I click on view, and I click on tables, more tables, and earned value tables. Okay, guys? Questions? So before the end of the class, it is possible that you have the opportunity to talk about earned value tables when you take a look at project monitoring and controlling. So don't worry about it. We're not going to cover that in detail, but this could be, this basic indicator here could be useful for your last lab assignment, lab 3. Project statistics or the earned value table. Okay, questions? Questions?
Hello, Professor. So you selected civil engineer as your primary resource on your own, or MS Project did that for you?
What?
You had civil engineer as primary resource, right? There was some icon, red icon in front of the civil engineer. For me, it's in front of project manager.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you do for your resource allocations. By making changes, playing with it, could be, you could have over allocation at any time while you're doing this. So solving the allocations is going to be the same. You can do it manually or automatically by going to resource and level all. All right. Okay. You can do it resource by resource, but you level all the time to make sure that everything is okay. So I'm going back to my Gantt chart view and my entry table. That's what it's look like. And why am I seeing this here? Okay. So that's it. Other questions, please?
Professor, where can you find the recording of this session?
Where can you find it?
Yeah, where will it be posted?
It will actually be, well, I'm going to receive it sometimes after the meeting, and I'm going to share it with folks in the roster. But if you don't see it, please, send me an email and I'll be happy to forward it to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so where are we? I think that's going to be all for today. If you don't have any questions for me, I'm going to wish you, the best of luck with your lab assignments. And if I can't be of any help, just please do not hesitate to reach out. Do we have questions here in the chat? Oh, you're welcome. Okay.
Professor?
Thank you, Professor.
Hi.
When will be the Jira workshop for Jira software?
Jira software workshop. Let me work with the folks at NUPM, and then we're going to send a calendar for the summer and the fall, depending and then on interest. So we're going to let you know. We're going to send pay attention to NUPM events and calendar, and very soon we're going to see something out.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, guys. Good luck, and that's going to be all for today. Okay.
Okay.
You take
Thank
care.
you for the amazing workshop.
Bye, Professor.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor. Bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Professor.
Absolutely.